welcome to Photoshop. Today we're just going to glance at Photoshop and just kind of skim the surface with a little tour and a couple of tools. So we're not going to get into super depth. We're not even going to deal with a photo to start with, and so we're going to go to File, New. If we were using a photo and we were going to edit that photo, we would go to Open. So click on New. You're going to notice there is no name right now. I'm just going to call this First, since this is our first lesson. We're going to make the width 10, the height 8, the resolution 300. If I were making this for the computer just to be seen on a screen, I'd make that 72. That's because a screen has a whole bunch of pixels, which are like little tiny light bulbs. If you stack them all next to each other, you don't really need as many dots to give you a good image, because you'll never be able to pick out a single dot because they're all shining at the same time. So 300 is for print purposes, and this is a general rule. Obviously that changes depending on your particular situation. Transparent is going to be our background. You certainly can have a black or a white background or a different color, but transparent is going to work best for us right now. Click OK. You've got a canvas to work on. This is perfect. You also have one layer. One of the things with Photoshop that you must understand in order to use the program properly is that the layers are really important. This is called a canvas, and we can create a whole bunch of layers on that canvas. Imagine that I go over here. You don't have to imagine. Let's just do it. I can choose this shape, and if I click and drag out, most of these buttons on the toolbar have things underneath, more tools. And so you have to look inside these sometimes to see a tool you may be looking for. I'm going to go with the rectangular tool. I'm just making a selection. A selection is just defining a particular area on whatever layer you happen to be on. I'm going to get my paint bucket, which again, you may not see the paint bucket. You may see the gradient tool. If you see this little gradient tool, just click on it, drag out. You'll see the paint bucket in the middle, not the 3D one. And we're going to go over here, dump it in our square or rectangle. And so I've just made a shape, colored it in. Perfect. Here's some things you might want to know. If I click on the black, that's the best way to change the color. Dump it in. Now I've got red. So that's layer 1. We're going to go to layer 2. So we're going to create a new layer by clicking on this little piece of paper. The reason you want a whole bunch of layers is, let's say I have a picture of a person and I want to put a mustache on them. If I put the person on layer 1 and I draw a mustache on them on layer 1, if I decide they look bad with a mustache and I want to erase the mustache, I will also be erasing their face. If on the other hand I put the person on layer 1, the mustache on layer 2, if I don't like the mustache, I can either make it invisible, or I can drag it down here to this little garbage can and throw the whole layer with the mustache away. Or I can erase just the mustache without affecting the next layer, because I'm only working on the layer that has the mustache. You'll see in just a minute. So now I'm on layer 2. I'm going to go all the way up here, drag this out, get an ellipse tool, which is really, I'm just trying to make a circle. And so I made my circle. I go down here, I click on the color, I change the color, click OK, dump in my color with my paint bucket. Remember our paint bucket. Dump that in, and I've got blue. Now if you'll notice, the blue is slightly in front of the red. That is because we have the blue on top of our red over here in our layers. If I drag this down below it, now the red's in front of the blue. And so it doesn't really matter which one you do. If I click on layer 1, this will be exciting for you. If I click on layer 1, notice my round selection. I'm on layer 1. Even though it looks like it's circling the blue circle, it doesn't really matter. If I hit delete, it's going to delete part of my square. So watch this. When I click on this arrow key up on top that will move things, and I pull it to the side, my selection is still there, and I also have eaten a big chunk out of the corner of my rectangle. And so it's very important to realize what layer you're working on and which one you want to be working on. Also keep in mind, I'll just use the paintbrush to show you this. If I'm trying to draw somewhere, I can't draw anywhere right now except for in the selection. So now that I'm going across the selection, it's drawing. And so that's really important to understand. It will only let you do something in a selection and on the layer that you're on. If I want to get rid of that selection, I go to Select, Deselect, and now my selection is gone. Okay? So we've talked about layers, we've talked about rearranging layers, we talked about the selection tool, we also talked about the paint bucket. So hopefully that is a nice beginning, and you can play around with that until the next lesson. Good luck!